All right, guys. So the first Warbond we have up is the Helldivers Mobilize. Let's actually take a deep look at it. The Warbond, this is definitely the biggest Warbond we get in the entire game. No other Warbond can compare to this. And yes, I understand it's the first Warbond you unlock, so it should be the biggest, but still have to mention that. So the biggest things in this Warbond is definitely the Punisher Shotgun, absolutely amazing. The Frag Grenade is kind of disappointing. Like, you never really use this or see anyone use it to begin with. The Infiltrator Armor, what was the passive? Oh, the Scout passive. This one is really good if you plan on doing stealth missions, which is, honestly, it's an option. I personally don't like it. I find them kind of boring and kind of tedious and stuff, but if you're a stealth guy, all to you. The next thing you get, the Redeemer, probably the second, or it's either tied for second or tied for third best secondary you can take with. Absolutely amazing. You also get introduced to the Fortified Armor, which is insanely good on bots. Yes, it's kind of not kind of, it is pretty much useless on bug missions, but on bot missions, this is an absolute S tier armor set. We get the Diligence, which is really shit. It's been shit before. They tried buffing it. They made it a little bit better, but it's still not that great. The next stuff we get is the Defender SMG. I found this to be on par with the Liberator primary weapon you get. Like, it's not amazing, it's not horrible, it's just average, really. And then the first booster we get, Hellpot Space Optimization. This one is kind of average. There's definitely a lot of boosters that are better than this, and there's also a lot of boosters that are much worse than this. So I would say this is just a mid-tier booster. Not bad, not horrible, but you wouldn't prioritize taking this over anything else, really. We also get introduced to the Engineer Kit passive, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't really care too much about having 2 extra grenades or the 30% reduced recoil when crouched or prone. Other people really like this. I don't really care too much for it, but hey, it's a new armor passive. We'll definitely take it. Now the fourth page, oh my god, we have, what, 6 more pages to go. We get introduced to the Bone Snapper armor, which is the medkit passive. First time we get this here. Absolutely one of the best armor passives in the game. The only problem with it is that I wish medium armor was better so that you didn't get 2-shotted as often, so that you could actually get the stims off and survive those situations where you're just getting swarmed by 50 bugs. Other than that, I don't really take this anymore because I've been losing my mind getting 2-shotted. But yeah, W to the Bone Snapper. Vitality Enhancement, the best booster in the entire game at the moment. No argument for it. I don't want to hear shit from you guys. It is the best. Anyways, the SG-225 Breaker. This was a really weird shotgun. I'm not a fan of it. I don't hate it. I just think it's a very average weapon. Like, I'd put it in the same category as the Liberator and the Defender. Like, it's not amazing. It's not bad, but there's better choices you can take instead of it. The next page is the Scythe. This here, I think, is an underrated weapon. It gets kind of boring using it because you just shoot out this straight laser piss beam pretty much. You can destroy Shrieker nests, Spore Towers from across the map, easily kill Shriekers and stuff. It's a good weapon, but it's just boring to use. I would say it's in between mid-tier and top tier. So I guess like 7 out of 10 I'd give it on a ranking score. Impact grenades, these used to be the best grenades until stun grenades, gas grenades, and thermite grenades came into the game. They're still not bad, but again, there's better choices, so I'd probably put this as like an average grenade. Armor set, we first get introduced to the Democracy Protects passive, 50% chance to not die when taking lethal damage, prevents all damage from bleeding if chest hemorrhages. I'm honestly not a fan of this. I hate it at all because when it comes to the 50-50 chance, I know my luck is horrendous and I'm gonna die every single time. I think this armor passive is kind of useless. I would not take it at all, but to be honest with you, it does look pretty clean. Like, even the helmet is easily top tier in terms of looks, but I guess that's personal preference for you. We also get another fortified armor. That's not really important since we already get one. The next booster is UAV Recon Boost. This one is definitely more of a bottom tier booster. I don't find it being that useful unless you're doing a stealth run. If you're doing a stealth run, all to you should definitely take this then. Makes it a lot easier to sneak past enemies. We also get the Liberator Penetrator, which went from the worst weapon into the game to about an average weapon. Like, it's not anything amazing. It's not horrible. It's in the same category as the Liberator, Defender, and the Breaker. So yeah, just like an average weapon, I would say. We also get the Diligence Counter Sniper. This one, it's only good on bots. And again, it's not amazing, but it's not average. I'd put it in between top tier and mid tier just because of how good it is on the bot mission. But you would never take this against the bugs. It's absolutely horrible in that department. So I guess maybe if you're taking taking it against the bugs and bots, if you take them both into account, it'd be an average tier weapon because it excels in one side, but not the other. Booster-wise, stamina enhancement, this is another top tier booster, I would say. Probably below, it's either like second, third, or fourth in line underneath the vitality enhancement. We also get more scout armor, but more armor with the scout passive, which, we already have, so that's whatever. We get another scout armor, that's again whatever. And we also get the slugger. This thing, bro, again, it was a weapon that was really good before, but then it became really bad in comparison to everything else. It just gets outshined by so many other weapons. I would say this is below average. I wouldn't say it's the worst weapon, but it might be a part of the top 5 worst weapons, I would say. Smoke grenades, these you never really see get used that much, but if they are getting used, it's definitely on a bot mission. I think smoke grenades need a buff. Like, you need to take more grenades with you or something, because right now there's just so many better options in terms of grenades instead of that. It's kind of crazy. We also get the breaker spray and pray, completely useless in bot missions, but pretty good in bug missions. Like, I would say this is definitely in between mid tier and top tier for weapons. But because it's useless in bot missions, I think I'm going to have to put this at average then. Like, I don't know, because you can't use it in bot missions, but it's really good in bug missions. It's like the same thing with the Diligence Counter Sniper, but flip it around. We also get Muscle Enhancement, allows Helldivers to traverse difficult terrain with ease. This is another pretty good booster. I think I'd put it as an average booster, actually. It's not really top tier. There's definitely a couple of boosters I would rather take instead of this, but it is really useful on planets with rough terrain, like snow planets or desert planets and stuff. So it has its moments. We get another armor with the medkit passive. Not really too important because we got it. We get another armor with Democracy Protects, which, again, I'm saying is not useless, but really bad. We get increased reinforcement budget, which I would say is a bottom tier booster, because if you have a solid team, you never really need to use the increased reinforcement budget, or very rarely does it come in hand. Like, yes, I understand people have bad games here and there and stuff, but I think people have more good games than bad games. So this here wouldn't be that good, or it wouldn't be used as much as you'd think so, or as much as you'd think. And lastly, we have the Scorcher, absolute top tier weapon. I keep saying one of the best, but like, it's definitely a top 5, top 7 type of weapon. It's amazing against the bugs. It's amazing against the bots. The only downside to it is you run out of ammo really fast, but obviously you can counter that by taking a supply pack. So for the Helldivers Mobilize, I think I'm going to have to put Helldivers Mobilize in S tier. You get so many new armor passives, so many good weapons and boosters and stuff. There's just so many good things about this. And I understand it's the first Warbond, or first Warbond you get, but you also get so many more things in this in comparison to all the other ones. Now, the next one we have is Democratic Detonation. This, I think, is going to be an interesting one. Well, not interesting. I feel like we all know how it's going to go. So, Democratic Detonation, let's take a look at it. Only 3 pages, so I'm pretty sure every other Warbond is only 3 pages. But anyway, so the first thing we unlock is the Thermite Grenade. Easily top 3 best grenades. Amazing. We also get the Adjudicator, which, I mean, the Adjudicator is not bad, but I do feel like the Reprimand does what the Adjudicator does, but better. So I think I would say the Adjudicator is either a mid-tier weapon or in between mid-tier and top tier. We also get another Engineer Kit passive, or another medium armor with Engineer Kit passive. Honestly, I don't think the armor looks that great, though. It kind of, I don't know, personal preference, I don't think it looks that good, but I'll let you guys decide that in the comment section or whatever. The next page, we have light armor, or in between light and medium armor, because it's 64 armor rating and 536 movement speed with 118 stamina regen. So it's in between light and medium. Another Engineer Kit passive, nothing new there. Booster-wise, we get Expert Extraction Pilot, lowers the time it takes for the extraction shuttle to reach the extraction beacon. This booster, I very rarely see this used, so I'm definitely going to say it's a bottom-tier booster. We also get the Eruptor, though, which before the buff, or before the nerfs that happened to it, it was the best weapon in the game. Now, I wouldn't say it's the best weapon in the game. I think I'd put it as a top tier weapon, just because of the amount of utility you can get out of it with those explosive rounds. Like, it is still really good. Obviously not as good as it used to be, but it's still pretty solid. And lastly, we got some more heavy armor with the fortified passive. I think this is by far my favorite looking armor, or a favorite heavy armor with the fortified passive. You just look like a complete juggernaut with it. Crazy good. And then we also got the crossbow and grenade pistol. Both of these here, I feel like the grenade pistol speaks for itself. Like everybody takes it with them unless they're taking the crossbow or the eruptor, which also says a lot about the crossbow, because if you're taking the crossbow, you can take out bug holes, you can take out chargers and impalers easily. Like, it's the weapon that does it all. So this is definitely an S tier or top tier weapon, another top tier weapon. So I think I'm gonna have to put Democratic Detonation all the way in S tier as well. It just has so many amazing weapons and also amazing grenade in it. Like, you really can't go wrong with it. Okay, and the next Warbond we have is the Steeled Veterans. So let's take a look at that now. Oh, there it is, Steeled Veterans. All right, so 3 pages again. First unlock you get is the Liberator Concussive. Similar to the Liberator Penetrator, but actually even worse. This was the worst gun in the game at the moment. But then they buffed it, giving it a 60, or I think it's a 60 or 65 round drum magazine, which you'd be surprised makes a massive difference. I would say this weapon is now an average tier weapon. It's not amazing, it's not horrible, but you can definitely get through a bug game with it, no problem. Bots, on the other hand, you kind of struggle. So actually, maybe because you can't really take this on a bot mission, I think I'd put it between mid-tier and bottom tier, because it does feel kind of useless against the bots, but it's also kind of good against the bugs. So I feel like that's a fair assessment for it. The Senator, easily the second best, or I'm not sure if this is either the best pistol or second best pistol. I know it's amazing against bots because you can 3-tap Hulks. So you can 3-tap Stalkers with this. I think as long as you land 1 headshot on the Stalker, it'll 3-tap them. I could be wrong about that, but regardless, it's a crazy good pistol all around. And we also have I'm not sure if this is when we first get introduced to the servo-assisted armor passive. I don't think it is, but either way, I'm not a fan of this armor passive. I think it only really works good is when you're using a exosuit, because you can just hop out of the exosuit, toss down a barrage, and then quickly walk away with it because of the increased throwing range. It makes it safer to use with mechs, or makes barrages safer to use with mechs. All right, and the second page, we get the Incendiary grenades. I used to be a fan of them. I just think they could be a lot better. Again, there's a lot of grenades that can do the same thing that this does, but better. So I think it's kind of a bottom tier grenade. A bottom tier, if not average tier. So nothing special. We also get another medium armor with the servo-assisted passive. Nothing too interesting there. And we get the one and only, the goated Breaker Incendiary. This weapon before was by far the best weapon in the game. After they nerfed the ammo capacity of it, it definitely dropped and the crossbow kind of overtook it. But if you pair this thing up with a supply backpack on a bug mission, you can rack up so many kills so easily. You handle bug breaches like they're nothing. But again, on the bot side, it's kind of useless. So I think I want to put this weapon at top tier, but I kind of think it's between mid tier and top tier. So somewhere along those lines. So like a 7.5 out of 10, I would say. And for the final page, we get the Jar Dominator, which I'm not that big of a fan, but if you're playing against bugs and you're going up against the armored spewers, it's definitely very clutch against them, and it's also good against the bots. But I think I have to put it in the average tier. It's definitely not that great against bugs, because it's only good against armored spewers, stalkers, and commanders. Other than that, you get overwhelmed so easily by hunters and warriors. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm saying this is probably an average tier weapon. And the booster we get is flexible reinforcement budget, reduces time until reinforcements are granted once they've been depleted. Again, another booster I very rarely see, because I think it's a bottom tier booster. It's really not that great. So actually, let me go take a quick look at everything. So Liberator Concussive, Senator, Incendiary Breaker, and Dominator. Okay, so Steeled Veterans. This one is kind of tricky because, actually, no, I made up my mind. I'm putting it in A tier. The Incendiary Breaker and the Senator are crazy good. Now, the Liberator Concussive and the Jar Dominator are decent weapons, so there's not really anything that horrible in this Warbond, except for the armor passive, which I'm not a fan about, and that booster. So I think A tier is definitely deserved for it. It's not amazing, it's not horrible, but it's pretty good, I would say. The next booster we have is Cutting Edge. I think this was the second, or not booster, Warbond. I'm pretty sure that's the second Warbond that got released. Let's go take a look at that as soon as there it is. All right, 3 pages again, and on the first page, we get the Sickle. This weapon, before, it used to be an absolute amazing, beautiful weapon, but it didn't get any buffs. when they were buffing all the other weapons before, I don't know how many updates ago, but they buffed all the weapons in the game, but they passed on this here. And to be honest with you, I kind of think it's a mid-tier weapon, if not between mid-tier and bottom tier, because it's not great at all against bots because it only has light armor penetration, and the damage on it, yeah, no, so the sickle, it just struggles against taking down alpha commanders and stalkers way too much. Like, you have to basically get the weapon to overheating to kill a commander or a stalker. It just takes way too many shots to take down those like chunkier units. Against swarms of hunters and warriors, it's not too bad. But yeah, I'm definitely saying this is anywhere. It's either a mid-tier weapon or between a mid-tier and bottom-tier weapon. Not a big fan of it. Definitely needs a buff, that's for sure. And then the booster, localized confusion, increase the time between enemy encounters. This, I would say, is an average tier booster. I do see it here and there, but not as often as, some of the other ones will say. But it's also not as bad as, let's say, I think it's called Firebomb Hellpod, where like you launch from the sky and your Hellpod explodes. Like, that is probably the worst booster in the entire game. So I'd definitely say average. Now, the nice thing in this Warbond, we actually get introduced to a new armor passive, Electrical Conduit, provides 95% resistance to arc damage. So the only time this is really a viable armor is if you're playing solo and you're using the Tesla Tower and Arc Thrower, or if all of your teammates are using the Arc Thrower and the Tesla Tower. And the reason I'm saying it's only viable then is because if you're running the Tesla Tower in a public game, odds are your teammates are going to destroy the Tesla Tower with like a random Eagle airstrike or orbital barrage, so it's barely going to get any use. So it's very limited in when you should use this armor and not use this armor. Anyways, so the next page, we got another medium armor with the Electrical Conduit passive. Honestly, the armor looks kind of decent, not really too great, but whatever. I mean, I think the other armor over here actually looks better in my opinion. Maybe not the helmet. The helmet looks kind of whack, but anyways. And then we also get introduced to the Punisher Plasma. Now, this here is a bottom tier weapon. It is pretty bad. I don't know how they haven't buffed this yet, but you will almost never see anybody using this weapon. If they increase the damage, it would definitely be an average weapon, if not better than an average weapon, because you could use this against bots and bugs, no problem. I just think it lacks damage heavily. The next thing, stun grenades. Easily, again, top 3 or top 4 grenades. It is so powerful against chargers. It just gives you a very clear and easy opportunity to take out a charger with either a rocket to the head, or if you jump behind them and start shooting at their butt with literally any weapon, you can kill a charger easily with one stun grenade. So I'm definitely saying this is a top tier grenade. And the next page, we get the Blitzer. Blitzer is crazy good. Anybody that hasn't used this weapon, you gotta use it. Infinite ammo, medium armor penetration, easily an S tier weapon on the bug side, but completely useless against bots. So I guess since it's useless against the bots, I think I'd have to put it between top tier and mid tier, because it's amazing on one side and then kind of useless on the other side. And then next up, we have the Dagger Pistol. This one, it's honestly just an average pistol. There's nothing that special to it. There's definitely there's pistols that are better than it, and there's definitely some pistols that are worse than it. Example, the Peacemaker, the worst pistol in the game at the moment. But yeah, the Dagger, there's nothing special to it, really. It's just an okay pistol. And lastly, we have the Electrical Conduit, or another light armor with the Electrical Conduit passive, and that's pretty much about it. Oh yeah, the guys are saying it's good for killing Shriekers and the Jet Brigade. Okay, I'll give it that there. It has its use against Shriekers and the Jet Brigade, but other than that, it's very limited. So for the cutting edge Warbond, it has some really great weapons and grenade. When I say weapons, I really mean the Blitzer and the stun grenade, but the armor is very limited in use. The Dagger Pistol is okay, and even the booster. What was the booster again? Let me go. I forgot what the booster was. Localization Confusion. Actually, Localization Confusion was not too bad at all. So you know what? I think a fair rating for the cutting edge would be B tier. I think it's a decent Warbond. I don't think it's anything special that I would get right away. It's definitely something I'd probably get later on after I get these top 3. If not, who knows, maybe more Warbonds will make it in the S and A tier. But yeah, it's definitely not something I would rush to get, and it's also not something I would get last. And the next Warbond, we have Chemical Agents. Let's go. I've been waiting to review this one. 3 pages as well. So the first major unlock we get is the Noxus Ranger armor. Also, Noxus Ranger helmet is definitely a goated looking helmet. That just looks so clean. Love it. But we also get introduced to a new armor passive, the Advanced Filtration, provides 80% resistance to gas damage and effects. Now, in theory, this sounds really cool. 80% resistance to gas damage and effects. Like, oh my god, that's kind of like the fire resistant armor. But my main issue with this is that I never die to gas damage, even when I'm not using this armor. So I kind of felt like this armor passive was useless because gas damage, like gas doesn't do that much damage to you. Like, it feels kind of pointless to run this armor, like, at all. So I'm definitely saying this is one of the bottom tier armors, if not the worst armor in the game. And then the next major unlock we get is the gas grenade, which is on the complete opposite end of the advanced filtration passive armor. This here, easily top 3, top 4 grenades. It is so good. Like, 2 of these grenades can get you as many kills as a stratagem. As, let's say, like the machine gun turrets, the orbital Gatling barrage. You just have to know where to place them and when to place them. That is the only thing to it. But other than that, these grenades are phenomenal. I take them with me all the time. So maybe I'm a little bit biased with it. Maybe I'm not, but easily S tier grenades. Now, the second page, we get medium armor with the advanced filtration passive. Again, bleh. Kind of useless. And we also get the Sterilizer. This is the first Warbond that has a stratagem in it, and the Sterilizer fits in the same category as the Advanced Filtration armor passive. Kind of useless. It's so bad. It takes so long to kill even the weakest bugs. Like, if you watch this little screen here, like, look how long he is gassing these warriors for. And by the time it ends, only one of those 3 warriors died. Like, it is so bad, easily like the worst stratagem, if not the second worst stratagem in the game. And we also get introduced to another pattern, which is kind of a gross green/yellow mustardy throw up look. I'll be real, I'm not a fan of the green/yellow look. Maybe you guys like it, but I definitely don't like it. It looks kind of gross. I would take the regular Pelican skin over this any day. Also, the regular Hellpod skin. Just very, very yucky. And the last page, we actually get the Stim Pistol. Now, the Stim Pistol isn't bad. It isn't great. I just find it to be a really niche weapon. Like, you just use it to heal your teammates, but in this game, a lot of the time, your teammates either one, instantly die, or they die in like 0.5 seconds because they get 2-shotted. Like, it's hard to get proper use or full use of the Stim Pistol. I think they need to make this a little bit easier to use. Maybe the hitbox on teammates with this is bigger. Maybe if you could stim yourself, this would be a crazy weapon to use. Well, maybe not crazy, but it would be a really solid weapon to take with you, because it'd basically be like taking the grenade pistol, but instead of grenades, you get a lot of extra stims. You know what I mean? Like, it would definitely be really solid. And we also get another stratagem, the Guard Dog Dog Breath. Exact same thing as the Sterilizer, but it's a guard dog. Now, you'd think, okay, maybe it's a little bit better because you don't have to control it. No, this thing is somehow even worse, because not only do you have to depend on the guard dog to actually start gassing the bugs, but the gas itself doesn't stay there. Like, it doesn't create a lingering cloud for when other bugs behind them walk past it, or walk past the bugs that it just gassed. It only gasses like the bugs that it's shooting at, and then that's it. The cloud disappears right after. Like, it just makes no sense at all. It is so bad. Not useless, but just extremely bad. And we also get another green mustardy throw up looking pattern for the exosuit. So yeah, I mean, I've been dogging on the Chemical Agents Warbond, but I think it's entirely deserved. I gotta put the Chemical Agents Warbond in the D tier. The only useful thing that came out of it was the gas grenade and the Stim Pistol. The Stim Pistol is not even like amazing, it's just kind of like average, but the gas grenade is amazing. Everything else is horrendous, from the armor passive to the fucking patterns of it, man. Oh my god, the patterns are so ugly. I'm sorry, they're just disgusting. Anyways, the next Warbond we have is the Viper Commandos. This one, I feel like I might be a little bit biased on it because I like the Viper Commandos quite a bit, but we'll take a deep dive into it. All right, and so 3 pages again. The first thing we get is light armor with a new armor passive, Peak Physique. So this increases melee damage by 50%, and more importantly, it improves the weapon handling with less drag on weapon movement. So pretty much anytime you're taking this armor with you, you're usually going to be taking either the Eruptor or Dominator primary weapon, and then either the heavy machine gun, the regular machine gun, maybe the anti-material rifle, and possibly the autocannon with you, just to like be able to move those weapons around much faster. I think this armor armor passive, maybe not an S tier, but I would say it's above average. I think I'd put it between top tier and mid tier again. Very great. Also, the look of it, I like the look of it. It kind of gives off like a Rambo type of vibe, so definitely a fan of it. And also the Viper, or not Viper, the Predator helmet, easily one of the best looking helmets in the game. No argument for that. It goes with pretty much every armor set, or almost every armor set. And pattern wise, I'm not a big fan of the green pattern. I think it looks okay. It just looks like a basic camo that you would unlock early on in the game. That's exactly what it looks like. But anyways, now the next major unlock is the Liberator Carbine. This year, I personally love this weapon a lot. I think it's really great, but in reality, it's just decent. It's kind of an average assault rifle, maybe a little bit better than the Liberator Carbine and stuff because of the increased fire rate. But at the same time, it does the same damage as the as the regular Liberator, just has a faster fire rate, so you burn through ammo much quicker. So I think, yeah, I'd put it as an average tier weapon, maybe a little bit above average tier, but not quite in between average and top tier, if that makes sense. Like, it's maybe just a little bit better than the average tier weapons. But anyways, continuing on, we also get the Bushwhacker, which I like this I like this secondary. I found it to be fantastic, especially against stalkers. You kind of just blast them in the face with it. You stun lock them to death, exactly like the Punisher shotgun. But on the bot side, it is completely useless. So, you know what? Talking about the Liberator Carbine, I think I'd put this as a average tier weapon then, because yeah, it is also kind of useless against bots, or yeah, it's kind of useless against bots. So yeah, I definitely say this is an average tier weapon. But getting back to the Bushwhacker, I would also say this is probably tied for, I think, second or third best weapon with the Redeemer and the Loyalist. Like, all three of them are fantastic secondaries that you can't go wrong with. Like, they all do good damage. They have their areas where they shine in, and their areas where they don't shine in. And we also get heavy armor with the Peak Physique passive. This one I don't really like. It kind of just makes your guy look a little bit chonky, a little bit too chonky, but personal preference on looks. And lastly, oh god, I forgot about this. We get the throwing knife. Now this was by far the worst grenade throwable in the entire game. Why? Because it can't even one-shot a hunter, and they're so difficult to use. By all means, if you're taking the throwing knife with you on any mission, you're doing a challenge run. That is the only thing I'm going to assume, because these things are just horrible in every area. Moving on, we also get the experimental stim infusion, or experimental infusion. In addition to restoring health, stims temporarily increase movement speed and damage reduction. So when you're getting swarmed by a bunch of bots or bugs, you stim yourself, you can run out of there fast, and you're also taking reduced damage. This is definitely a top tier booster I see very often, and there's no surprise to seeing it as often as I do. So now, where do we think the Viper Commandos belong? Because I'm thinking it's either B tier or A tier, but I'm kind of leaning more towards B tier. There's nothing that's incredibly good about it, but it does have quite the amount of decent weapons. So actually, let me take a second look. I gotta double look at this. So armor passive is great. Liberator Carbine is decent. Shotgun pistol is pretty good. Throwing knife is horrible, and the booster is also really good. I don't think it's on par with Steeled Veterans. So I'm gonna have to leave it in B tier with the cutting edge. I think B tier is definitely a solid spot for it. And the next Warbond we have is the Truth Enforcers. This is the most recent Warbond. All right, so 3 pages again. So the first major item we can get is the Dead Sprint Booster. This allows Helldivers to keep sprinting even when they are out of stamina, draining their health instead. Now, personally, I didn't find this booster to be that great. I think it's an average tier booster. I don't think it's amazing. I also don't think it's some of the worst. I think it's average. Like, it does have its use in certain moments, like, when you're being chased by a swarm of bugs, but I also don't like the idea of draining your health to run faster, because that just makes you more vulnerable to getting 1 or 2 shotted and stuff. You know what I mean? So I definitely say this is an average tier booster. We also get the best looking Warbond. You guys cannot tell me that the black and red pattern on the exosuits, the Hellpod, the Pelican are not the best looking pattern in the entire game. It is complete drip. I want to say buy this Warbond just for the drip, but I feel like that's not really a good reason for it. But moving on. So the first weapon we get is the Halt Shotgun, a light armor penetrating, medium armor penetrating, and rounds reloaded shotgun. So what this means exactly is it has 2 firing modes. You can switch between stun rounds that have light armor penetration, and I think they also do less damage if I'm not mistaken. I found myself Like, I found myself taking more shots to kill hunters with the stun rounds than the other firing mode it has. And the other firing mode is it shoots out flesh it rounds. So it's just medium armor penetrating shotgun rounds. And you can switch between the two whenever you want. I think this weapon is pretty useful, especially since you can stun chargers with it. Like if you shoot them in the butt or if you shoot them in the mouth. The mouth is a little bit harder to hit. So shooting at the butt is definitely what you'd want to aim for. Also good at stunning stalkers and commanders. But the thing I didn't like about it is that you have to micromanage quite a bit between switching back and forth between the rounds, because let's say you stun a stalker or you stun a commander and you want to kill them. The stun rounds are going to take so many shots to kill them. So you have to switch to the flesh it rounds, the medium armor penetrating rounds. So that's just a little micromanage that you have to do. I do like the option being able to switch between those rounds. It gives it nice versatility in lots of different situations. So I think this weapon it's between top tier and mid tier. A lot of the weapons are kind of in between that section there, because a lot of them are good, but not good enough to be in the top tier, but not bad enough to be average. It just requires a lot of micromanaging. That's just what I'm not a fan of, but if you're okay with that, you can do a lot with the Halt Shotgun. All right, the next weapon or next major unlock is the SMG-32 Reprimand. This is the best SMG in the game at the moment. It hits like a truck, 125 damage, 25 ammo. It does have a lot of recoil, but if you go in first person, it's definitely manageable. Also, if you crouch while you're shooting, it's even easier to control. And it has a very slow fire rate. Personally, I like the slow fire rate. I think slow firing weapons are, I don't want to say that's what we need in the game, but I do enjoy them because you save a lot of ammo and you stop yourself from overshooting bugs like crazy. Like I know when I'm using the Knight SMG or the Stalwart on max RPMs, sure, I'm killing bugs much faster, no doubt about it, but I'm also wasting easily an extra probably 10 to 20 rounds on each bug that I killed because it shoots so fast. I don't realize they're dead until I've already shot an extra 10 or 20 rounds. But yeah, so I think it's close to being a top tier weapon. It is close, but not quite there, I would say. I think maybe the capacity needs an extra 5 rounds in each magazine, and then it would definitely be there. But moving forward, the next armor we have, the next major unlock is a new armor passive, Unflinching, helps prevent Helldivers from flinching when hit. So pretty much when you're being shot at or being hit by a bug and you try to stim yourself and the bug or the robot bug or bot cancels out the stimming animation from damaging you, this armor allows you to just go straight through the damage and stim yourself or reload. Now, this armor would be amazing if it came in a heavy variation. You only get medium armor, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, you only get medium and light armor variations of this, which means you are very vulnerable to getting two-shotted and not actually using the unflinching passive because you just die so quickly. So in other words, the unflinching passive at the moment is, again, a very useless armor passive, kind of like I forgot what the armor passive was called in the gas Warbond, but the one that makes you take 80% reduced gas damage. It's basically on par with that. They're both kind of useless. The only reason to take this armor set is just for the drip. Like, you can't tell me that does not look good. It kind of looks like the red stormtroopers from Star Wars, which, I'm somewhat of a Star Wars fan myself, So yeah, I would definitely take this just for the drip. Actually, I wouldn't take this at all because I like functionality over looks, to be honest with you. And then the next major unlock, same armor again, or not same armor passive, but the light variation. And the helmet makes you look like a Power Ranger. So I guess if looking like a Power Ranger was your thing, I mean, go ahead and take this armor, but I don't think the unflinching passive is that great because there's no heavy armor to take with it. To actually get no heavy armor with the unflinching passive on it. So yeah, again, kind of useless and stuff, but anyways. And lastly is the Loyalist pistol. This here, I would say, is on par with the Senator. Sure, it doesn't have the heavy armor penetrating that the Senator has, and it only has 7 shots in each magazine, and I believe 4 magazines total, which is not a lot of ammo, but the thing is, if you charge up the shots, you can get so much damage and kill so many bugs and bots with it. It's a great weapon for either situation. And because you don't have to charge up your shots to shoot it, which I do heavily recommend if you want to, save ammo on the weapon, you can also top fire it like the Purifier if any bug or bot gets too close to you. It really is a great all-around weapon for both bots and bugs. All right, so now in terms of where do I think the Truth Enforcers rank, I really want to put it in A tier because the Reprimand is solid, the Halt Shotgun is solid, the Loyalist is solid, the Armor Passive is kind of shat because there's no heavy armor to go with it, and also has the Deadman Sprint, which I would say is an average booster, so I think I would put it in A tier. There really isn't anything that is completely horrible in this Warbond, I guess except for the Armor Passive. And also, I almost forgot to mention, the pattern and the armor, like cosmetic look amazing. So I think I got to put it in A tier. I feel like the looks, the cosmetic department definitely bumped it up from B tier to A tier. But yeah, if you're only looking for functionality, you could put this in B tier. I would fully understand that, but A tier is my go-to for it. And the next Warbond is Freedom's Flame. So this was the fire Warbond that everybody was looking forward to before they, nerfed fire damage into the ground, which didn't make any sense, but whatever. I didn't create the game. I don't create the updates. I just play it. I let them do them. So anyways, the first major unlock we get is light armor with the inflammable passive. So this is the first time we get introduced to an armor passive that has fire resistant or fire damage resistance, provides 75% damage resistance to fire, allowing bearer to rest assured in their inflammability. Pretty much, if you're running any sort of flamethrower, torture, crisper, whatever type of fire loadout, you are taking this armor. It saves you so much. But the thing is, it's very niche. You're only taking this with you if you're taking the flamethrower. Other than that, like, this armor has no use. So again, I think I would have to put this in an average tier armor, or I think the armor passive is definitely average tier. Because first off, like I said, you're only taking this if you have the flamethrower with you, torture or crisper. Second off, when are you ever taking the crisper, flamethrower, or torture on a bot mission? It's never happening. So this is something you use only for bug missions. So I think I have to put it as average tier or maybe a little bit higher up than average. I think armor passive is great, but it's just very niche. And then the next major unlock is the Hookout. Again, similar issue to the armor passive. This weapon is only good on bots. Or not bots, bugs. It is only good on bugs. It's got lots of knockback. It's got incendiary rounds. You reload each round individually. The damage is pretty decent, 320. It's just really a top tier weapon for bugs, but completely useless against top tier weapon against bugs, but completely useless against bots. So again, I think I would put this in between average and top tier weapons, just because it's not good on the bot side. If it was good on the bot side as well, like if it had medium armor penetration, which I don't think they should give it, it seems like it's a solid weapon already, it would definitely be top tier. Also, we get a new pattern scheme, orange, for the Hellpod, the Pelican, and the exosuits, which I think they look okay. I mean, I definitely like the black and red more, but the thing is with the orange, it makes it stand out a lot better. So if you're walking around in an exosuit or your Hellpod comes down like a resupply, even though, yes, they did make it so you can see the resupply on the map, the orange colors definitely stand out and make it easier to see. So I'll give it a little bit of functionality, and the look is somewhat decent. Now for the next page, the next major unlock is the Flam 66 Torture. This here is an interesting weapon because, one, it's really good. It is really good at torture, but it's really good at slaughtering large swarms of bugs very easily. But obviously you have to take the armor with the inflammable passive and the shield pack to make sure you don't die. So it does have its drawback. It has another drawback because you can't use it on the bot side, which sucks. And also, if you're taking the torture with you, you're also taking the inflammable armor with you and potentially the shield pack. At that point, you might as well just take the flamethrower, which is just a complete upgraded version of the torture. So it kind of just gets outshined entirely by the stratagem weapon. It doesn't really make too much sense to take it with you, but I think I'd have to say it's an average weapon because of that. Like, it's amazing on bugs, useless on bots, but it does get overshadowed heavily by the regular flamethrower. So kind of interesting weapon. I do enjoy using it. I find it to be fun and pretty useful, but again, it just gets outshined by regular flamethrower. And now for the next page, we get the Firebomb Hellpods booster. Oh boy, this is the worst fucking booster in the game. Lines all Hellpods with volatile incendiaries that detonate upon impact, igniting any units in vicinity of the drop site. So pretty much this is the biggest team killer booster in the game, or one of the biggest team killing things in the game. You call down a resupply, expendables, you forget you have this booster on, it sets you on fire and then kills you. There is nothing worse than this booster. I don't even know why they thought this would be a good idea. It is so bad. But yeah, so that's bottom tier. And we also get the Crisper pistol. Now this pistol, I think it's maybe an average tier pistol, maybe a little bit below average tier, because again, it's only useful on bugs. It's not anything amazing against bugs. I'd say it's pretty good, but most of the time, if you're running the crisper, you're usually running the inflammable armor and doing some sort of pyro loadout. And as you could guess, it's useless on the bot side. So I think it's kind of decent. Like, it's average. That's the best I would say for it. All right, so now in terms of where it ranks is kind of difficult, because I want to put it in B tier because it's average, but at the same time, I think it belongs in C tier because it's very niche. The inflammable armor, you can only use that, or you're only going to use that, is when you're running the flamethrower or the torture. And then at the same time, the torture just gets outshined by the flamethrower, and the booster is honestly horrible. The only great thing about this Warbond is the inflammable armor passive, the cookouts, and the not so bad looking pattern and stuff. So I think C tier honestly fits it. It's very niche, but it is like somewhat good. And the last Warbond is the Polar Patriots. All right, let me find where the Polar Patriots is at. Nope. There it is. All right, so first major thing you unlock is the Winter Warrior armor and helmet, which I gotta say, I love the Winter Warrior helmet. It kind of reminds me of the Snow Troopers from Star Wars. So I guess this kind of has a little bit of favoritism here for this year. The armor passive is the servo assisted, so no new armor passive at all in this Warbond, which was a little bit disappointing, but whatever. We got a little bit of drip instead of a new armor passive. I guess I can handle that. The next thing we unlock is the booster Motivational Shocks. Allows all Helldivers to recover faster after being slowed by an acid or by an attack such as acid. Does not mitigate area effects such as EMS strikes. Now, what this means is it's only useful on bug missions. And personally, I used to take this a lot with me until I switched over to taking, I think it was Vitality Enhancement, I'm pretty sure it was called. But yeah, whatever the best booster was, I'd always take that with me. But yeah, Motivational Shocks, I would say it's an average tier booster because it's useless on bot missions, but it is very good on bug missions for getting out of when, let's say, Bile Titans or Bile Titans, Nursery Spewers, and Armored Spewers, and also Hunters like slow you down with their attacks. This will let you recover from it faster to get out of those sticky situations. So because it's really good on one side and useless on the other, I gotta meet it halfway in the middle and put it at average. I think that's pretty fair. Then the next unlock is the Tenderizer. 95 damage, 35 mag capacity, light armor penetrating. Now the thing is, it sounds good. 95 damage sounds amazing. 35 bullets in the magazine also sounds pretty good. And you can also bump up the fire rates from, I think the standard fire rate on it was like 600 RPMs or 400 RPMs. And you can bump it up to, I believe, 850 RPMs. So you can take down alpha commanders, nursery spewers, and stalkers much quicker. Now, this weapon is a bullet hose of a weapon when you do set it to that fire rates. And the thing I didn't like about it is that it didn't have that medium armor penetration. I'm a big fan of medium armor penetration, and I think if a weapon doesn't have medium armor penetration or some sort of explosive capability, it is pretty useless against the bot side. So this weapon's only really good on the bug side, but even then, I don't know. I wanted to like this weapon because it looks really cool. I like that it packs a punch, but it wasn't cutting it for me. I found myself struggling against large swarms, and even sometimes I'd also struggle against alpha commanders and stalkers and stuff. It has a lot of damage, but it just wasn't killing them fast enough for some reason. That could just be a personal issue, but I think it's just an average weapon, if not a little bit below average. And next up, we got the Pummeler. Pummeler, definitely an average weapon. Damage is 65, capacity is 45, fire rate is pretty slow. It's only got light armor penetration, but it has the knockback effect similar to, or I think it's similar or the exact same as the Liberator Concussive. I think it has less knockback than the Liberator Concussive, but still, I think the Pummeler is an average weapon because yes, you can use it one-handed. You don't have the armor penetration on it, so you can't really take it with you on a bot mission. But when you're fighting against the bugs, you can definitely push back large swarms pretty easily. So if you combine the Pummeler with, let's say, either the Rocket Sentry, Autocannon Sentry, like some sort of sentry that takes out tanks and stuff, you can keep the swarms of bugs pushed back so that those turrets can handle the heavier enemies or even just help you out against the large swarms and stuff. So yeah, I think it's average. It doesn't heavily excel in any area, or I guess it excels in dealing with large swarms, but it doesn't really kill the large swarms of bugs. It kind of just slows them down. But yeah. And then the next major unlock, we get another heavy armor with the fortified passive, further reduced recoil when crouching or prone by 30%, provides 50% resistance to explosive damage. Nothing new here at all. But I will say this armor does look really nice, and the helmet looks even nicer. God damn, you guys can't tell me that is not a disgusting disgusting looking helmet. Like, I love this. I think this is probably in my top 7 favorite helmets in terms of looks. It goes good with a lot of other armors. And we also get the Incendiary impacts. Now these here, I used to use them here and there, but there's so many better options in terms of grenades. Like, if you use the gas grenade, it kills so many more bugs, and it leaves behind crowd control. Like, it slows the bugs down. The Incendiary impact grenades just don't have the damage. They barely have, well, I guess, yeah, they have the armor penetration, level 3 penetration, so they can take down heavier units, but the damage isn't there. The crowd control isn't there. Maybe if the pool of fire that it spreads on the ground lasted longer or did more damage, I would say it's an average grenade, but I think it's a bottom tier grenade. It's kind of sad to see it because it's a fun thing to use. It's just not that effective. And now for the third page, we get more light armor with the scout passive. Nothing new at all. We've seen this before lots of times. Only taking this for stealth missions. I think it looks kind of, in terms of appearance, it looks kind of bad, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of that. I don't even know. I guess all the brown stuff. I feel like a Tusken Raider from Star Wars, like one of the sand planets that they were on. I don't like the vibe of it. Or not the vibe, but the look at all. Again, personal preference, do as you will. And the next major unlock, the Purifier. God damn. Easily an S tier weapon. It is amazing against bugs. It is amazing against bots. Does lots of damage. Has tons of ammo too. You just can't go wrong with this. It is a top tier weapon easily. And that's all there is to be said about it. And the last major unlock is the Verdict pistol. This here, I personally like it because it looks like a Desert Eagle. Like, the Desert Eagle is just a really cool weapon in every game. But unfortunately, it just doesn't do that. It just isn't that great. It kind of falls behind. It's not as good as a Senator, and it's definitely not as good as the Redeemer or the Bushwhacker. Like, I'd rather take the Bushwhacker, Redeemer, or Senator pistol over this anytime, any day of the week, in terms of functionality. In terms of fun, yeah, it's definitely a fun weapon. It sounds really loud. The animation, like the recoil on it, is really cool. The reload animation is really cool. It's just a fun weapon to use with somewhat effect. So I think I'd just say it's average. All right, and I think that's the last. Is that the last Warbond? Yeah, that is the last Warbond. So now I got to decide on where to put Polar Patriots. I don't think it belongs in B tier because Viper Commandos, Cutting Edge, I feel like they had a lot more useful stuff than this. It does have some nice drip to it. I don't think it's as useless as Chemical Agents, so I think I gotta put it in C tier. I think C tier, it definitely fits there. The drip looks really nice. I think it's called the Kodiak armor, and the Winter Warrior armor look really clean. You get the Purifier, which is amazing. You get the Tenderizer, which is average. You also get the Verdict, which is another average tier weapon. I feel like I'm missing something. Let me take a look at that again. Polar Patriots. So the Verdict, average. Oh yeah, you also get the Pummeler, which is another average weapon. And you get the Incendiary grenades, which again is not really that great as a bottom tier. And for booster wise, you get another average booster. So I guess all around, it's kind of like a bit worse than average because there's only one amazing weapon in it, one really bad grenade, and the rest of the stuff is just, yeah, average. I guess you could say maybe it belongs in B tier, but I don't think it makes it there. I think it stops at C tier. Unless if you want to count the drip as a factor, which I guess I did that for the Truth Enforcers because the Truth Enforcers looks really nice. You could put it in B, but I just don't think it has enough functionality to make it to B. But yeah, that's my tier list. I guess let me know if you guys agree or disagree in the comments section. And yeah, that's about it.